Hello, good morning from sunny Arizona. Thank you for joining us to the Tips for the Transition, the Career Roadmap podcast. We come to you every week about this time on this day, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, and on your favorite podcast audio channels right after we finish this recording. I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, your host. I am a career and life coach for women. And my vision is to create resources that help women navigate their careers and their life challenges with more ease and grace, and to know that they're not alone. So each weekly conversation that we have here with inspiring women is intended to help women around the world become more confident, more resilient, and brave as they chug along in their careers and in their lives. So, if anything strikes a chord as we're talking, take a look below the video in the description or the comments section so you can see how you can connect with my guest and with me. So, let me ask a question. Have you ever found yourself overwhelmed to the point where you don't know who you are anymore? Things happen, right? Life happens. They pile up so much that sometimes you feel like you've lost control. And you might not even recognize the woman who's looking back in the mirror. So we might wonder, where did that confident woman go? Well, today we are going to talk about how to move from that overwhelmed state to a better place. And we're going to talk about that with Duquesa Dean. Duquesa is a corporate trainer, author, and speaker, and a self development mentor. She's CEO of her own company in the Bahamas. She's coming to us from the Bahamas this morning. And she provides corporate training, team building, and small business startup consultancy. She helps businesses increase workforce engagement, employee productivity, and profits. She also has a personal story. She has survived against the odds. After a near death experience and devastating hardships, abusive relationships, and listening to everyone else but herself. Who can relate to that? She learned firsthand how to evolve and become her own woman and live her life authentically. And now she helps other women to achieve their goals and boldly claim their purpose and living a fulfilling life. So we call this episode From Overwhelmed to Owning It. Duquesa, I want to welcome you. Hello, Duquesa. I'm so happy you're here.
Hello. Thank you so very much for the opportunity to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation and to be here just to share uh, tips, suggestions, advice, and even some of my own experiences with the hope that if one person walks away owning their power, it would all be worth it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I believe that too. Just one person. We just need to touch one. I so agree with you. All right, so let's get started, Duquesa. Let's start with your story. Would you tell us a bit about your background and how that led you to helping women who are feeling overwhelmed now and taking ownership of their lives?
Absolutely. I vividly remember some of my first memories as a toddler, birthday parties, being loved by my primary nurturer, who was actually my great grandmother. And at the age of 13, my great grandmother passed away. Bear in mind that my great grandmother was who I referred to as mother because she really took care of me. And when mother passed away, my whole life just went into a tailspin because there was no one there to really replace the love, the affirmation, and the support that I had been getting from her. I lived in an extended family, and while our family was large and the home was always filled with people, I oftentimes felt isolated. And so I sought many ways to fill the void inside of me that was left as a result of mother no longer being here. I acted out. I was what some people term a troubled teen who would not amount to anything in life. I ran away from home. I was in relationships with men just to have someone that wanted me. I wanted to belong. I wanted to feel loved. And so I chose bad relationships. And I got married really young at the age of, I think it was 20, because I wanted to escape from the reality of my life. And I thought that my then husband would be my knight in shining armor. However, that did not work out, and I ended up for quite a few years being involved in a marriage where we were both challenged and there was some abuse involved. And I'm grateful today that my ex husband is a changed man, currently happily married. At the time that we were together, I believe that we were both not ready or prepared for the responsibilities of life or of love. And it ended up being domestic abuse. And so, at around 25, 26, I sat on my bathroom floor as I looked over my life and recognized that I was not loved. I didn't have that sense of belonging. I had two kids that I was now responsible for. I was not allowed to work. And so I was home, isolated a lot. I thought to myself that this would be the perfect day to tap out on life. It was a Saturday, and I remember it vividly. I walked out of my bathroom after cleaning all day. The bathroom was the last place that I'd cleaned. And I walked out of the bathroom down the long hall to the kitchen, where I opened the white refrigerator and pulled out a bottle of orange juice. I felt like a robot. And I turned around, walked out of the kitchen, walked back down that long corridor, re entered the bathroom, and opened the medicine cabinet. As I opened the medicine cabinet, though, I looked in the mirror, and staring back at me was a woman who was so disappointed in herself. I looked at myself and I told myself, "You are an absolute mess. You are a failure. You're not worthy. You can't make a marriage work. You're not a good mom." And I started to have these conversations with myself, pull those tablets out that cabinet, close the cabinet, and I sat in front of the toilet, Maria. And I thought, how ironic that I would sit to take my life in front of a receptacle that received waste, because I equated my life to waste at that time. And as I sat on my bathroom floor with tablets in one hand and orange juice in another hand, for some reason I just looked up, as I'm doing now, and out of the recess lighting were these rays. And these rays were shining down on me. And in that moment, I recognized that I was not alone, that I was not a failure, because you see, I grew up in church and the word of God had been ingrained in me, even though I'd shut God off for a long time because I was so disappointed in life. I wasn't connected with Him. And in that moment, I truly remembered that I was not alone, and the promises of Jeremiah 29:11 would be fulfilled in my life, that I would have hope and a great future. I found the courage somehow to get up off my bathroom floor, determined to find a better way of life for me and my two kids, but I didn't know how. And so 2 days later, a mentor approached me, asked me to help me rebuild my life. I said yes after much deliberation because my mentor was male. And in my mind, I was like, this is just another dude really trying to enter me, not mentor me. And I almost said no. But that yes was the greatest redefining moment of my life, because my mentor taught me how to take ownership of my life, how to reprogram myself, how to truly map out a life that I want. And as I worked through the healing process, I also recognized that there were so many other women in similar situations who had troubled teen years, who were victims of domestic abuse, who were looking for love and belonging. That I thought there was no way that the pain that I had experienced over my life was going to be for nothing, that I would use the pain to birth purpose. And so, as a result of my healing and understanding that I'm not alone, there are thousands of women who were in a similar situation, I started working with other women, with children, bringing them from the darkness and guiding them to a much better place, a place that they had formulated for themselves that they wanted to be. And so, what was meant for bad, actually, with the power inside of me that was harnessed by the support of, or with the support of my mentor and doing the healing work, I was able to transform my life. And today I am a community builder here in the Bahamas. I work with women, I work with young people. Um, I give so that other people can have the opportunity to have hope and know that they can build a better life.
What a beautiful story. Heart-wrenching and beautiful. The hope that is in that story is palpable. I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I know sometimes those vulnerable stories are hard to relive, but you shared it so transparently. I really appreciate that.
Thank
Now,
you.
let me ask you another question. You talked about how many other women you found who were giving up their power. What do you think are the the top reasons that women do that?
Well, I want to share a few of them with you. I can tell you that there are four common reasons why women have given up their power. One is because they're disappointed. They're disappointed because life has not turned out the way that they wanted it to. Perhaps they had dreams and goals and didn't know how to accomplish them. They've been through so many hard situations that they're disappointed in life and their hope has been distinguished. The second reason is because they've been discouraged. They know what they want to do, but they've been discouraged by friends, by family, by society to fit into a box, to just follow the mold of what rules have been given for us and to make sure that we don't come outside of those rules. And so they've been discouraged from going after their dreams. They've been discouraged from being who they truly are. They've been discouraged by standing up for themselves. The third reason is a lack of confidence. And the lack of confidence really stems from a place of self esteem. And I can tell you, as a strong woman today, when I was younger, my self esteem was not built, my self value was not built. And we act from the place of our esteem. You have to have a really strong esteem to stand up and be courageous and own your power. And so the lack of confidence keeps us from owning our power. The question, what will people think, is one of those questions that keep us stuck, that keep us chained to the past, that keep us from really going after what our hearts desire. And the fourth reason is we've become accustomed to settling. We've had so many experiences in life that we begin to settle and believe that settling is okay, but settling is not okay. Settling is giving up. And so we give up our power because of a lot of external sources and our need for external validation. When we look for acceptance, when we look for approval, when we look for validation for sources outside of us, we're giving other people, situations, and circumstances the power to keep us on a shaky foundation. Because if they pull their love away, if they pull their support away, if they pull away from us, our emotions are haywire and we're no longer sure of who we are and what we are about. So we must get over disappointment. Life happens. We must look at discouragement and pull the lessons and use those lessons to make the next attempt better. We must work on our self value and self esteem, get to the core of who we are as individuals. We have been when we ask people who they are, they usually tell us these labels. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a lawyer. So we have these labels, but those titles don't really define who we are. We have to know who we are, what our values are, what our beliefs are, so that we can stand in our power.
Wow. Okay. Those are four, I'm sure those hit nerves all over the world. feeling disappointed, discouraged, lack of self esteem, confidence, lack of confidence, and settling. That one hit a nerve for me when I think back to how I compromised my own values to keep the peace,
Yes.
right? I settled and I thought it was okay. It's
Yeah.
good enough.
Yes. And we
Yeah,
often do.
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing those. Those are powerful, powerful reasons. Okay, so now let's talk about, and all of those can become overwhelming to us,
Yes.
right? So now
Yes.
let's talk about, I know you have a system that moves women from being overwhelmed to owning it, as we titled this episode. So what are the steps that you teach for that to be able to happen?
So it is a 5-step system that I recommend every single person, male or female. But because I work with women, I specify women use to help them go from being overwhelmed to the place of really owning it in their lives. And a part of it is the power of accepting responsibility for our own lives. In my book, Sister Stand Up Again, I talk about the fact that it's hard to make choices that are in our best interest when we are people pleasers. And so, in order for us to implement this system, we have to first want to please ourselves. We have to want to identify where we are, take off the scales that are on our eyes, and open our eyes and look at how our choices have brought us to the place where we are today. We we make a choice either by intention or by default, and when we make no choice, that is a default choice, and life happens around us and we don't have our power. So the very first thing I recommend that people do when they want to shift from being an overwhelmed to owning it is to accept responsibility for their lives and to identify exactly where they are. Where are you right now? Why are you here? What are some of the choices that led you to this place today? If you could have a redo, what would you do? How did you participate in your life? How did you give approval or not give approval for the circumstances that brought you to today to exist? So that's the first thing. The second thing is once you identify where you are, then we have to figure out where we want to go. That's the power of having a vision. And I'm not talking about a small vision. I'm talking about the biggest, brightest vision that you could have for your life. If there were no limits, if there were no limiting beliefs, what would you imagine your life as? What would you be doing? Who would you be with? What profession would you be in? So we have to identify where we want to go because it's the vision that pulls us. And we must create this guiding light by creating a vision statement. And a vision statement is only going to help us if we keep it visual and we constantly review that statement every day. My greatest life, my best life is A, B, C, D, and E. And every day, allow that vision and that vision statement to guide the decisions that we make, to guide the action that we take, to ensure that every action that we're taking is actually aligning with the vision that we have established for our lives. That is what intention is. A lot of times we use the word intention without taking intentional action. But intentional action requires us to identify where we want to go and how we're going to get there. And that's the third part of my system, identifying the moves that are necessary for us to step forward. And this is where we create a plan. I am not a New Year's resolutions girl. I am a 10-year big vision girl. And looking at that 10-year vision and then reverse engineering everything that I need to do to achieve that 10-year vision. So in year one, what do I need to do? In year two, what do I need to do? In year three, what do I need to do? But all of these steps are connected and aligned with the overall larger vision that I have for my life. And that is what my clients do. They create on paper because it's not good enough to create this vision in your mind. It's not good enough to create these steps in your mind because you think, rethink, overthink. But when we plan it out and we write it out, we can see clearly and understand what needs to be tweaked. And once we create this plan, and I want to share that when all of us live in homes, right? We live in buildings and we work in structures and buildings that have been created by contractors. The contractor executed a well laid out plan. And so there was an architect who crafted a client's vision on paper and gave that vision to a contractor. That plan had the foundation, that plan had the house layout, it had the HVAC, it had the plumbing, everything about that house was created on paper. And it was a guide for the contractor to execute. And with every plan, we must have a degree of flexibility because things happen. So it's not that it's set in stone. There is some flexibility, but there is a plan that we're executing. The next step is to do the work. We can create the plan, we can have the vision, we can create the vision statement, but if we do nothing with it, nothing changes. And this is where a lot of people get stuck because taking action takes courage.
Mm.
Taking that first step is a lot of courage. However, when we create our plans and we have those small micro steps, taking the first step is going to be easier because it's going to be a small step, because it is the accumulation of small steps that allow us to achieve big goals. We must be willing to stay in action. We must be willing to be dream builders because dream builders are people who rely on discipline. They understand that they must be disciplined. Dream builders also understand that there is no destination, that it's a continuous journey. Whenever we reach one point, there's always another place to go. And so dream builders understand that we don't have destination fever. It's actually a journey that we're on. Dream builders also maximize the value of the work that they do. They look at their plan and they establish first things first by prioritizing their lives, their actions. Dream builders understand that those small micro steps actually help them to create momentum. And they are then internally motivated because they continue to see themselves winning as they achieve these very small micro steps. Dream builders also take responsibility. They don't believe it is their mom's job to give them a great life. They don't blame everyone around them for not giving them a chance. My boss didn't like me. My sisters or my friends don't like me. No, they take responsibility for understanding who they are and that during this journey, some people will fall away. They won't like you, and that's okay. If everybody likes you, something is wrong. But when we look at dream builders and we see the actions that they take, and we compare that to a fantasizer, we can see a vast difference, Maria, because fantasizers, they rely on luck. They're going to luck it out. They're not going to prepare. They're not going to take the time to prepare because that's painstaking work. So they are just really going to rely on luck. Fantasizers minimize the value of hard work. They don't want to work hard. They want the big life. They want the success. They want millions, but they're not prepared to be disciplined enough to take the action based on a plan that is necessary to give them that level of success. Fantasizers avoid personal risk. They don't want to take the risk. But a dream builder understands that it is a calculated risk that is necessary for them to be successful. Fantasizers also make other people things priorities over themselves. And this is a big one because as a dream builder, we have to understand the success of our plan is tied to how well we take care of ourselves and make ourselves priority number one. When we make ourselves priority number one, and we do first things first, we can serve other people. We can help other people, but not to our detriment. And I just want to share that there was a time in my life when I was such a people pleaser that my goals weren't as important as helping someone else. That I wanted to belong so bad that I became a chameleon and adapted to the environment versus being the bold, courageous woman that I am today. Today I can own who I am. Today I can enter a room and be comfortable standing alone. Today I can go to lunch by myself or go to dinner by myself. We often believe that the support, the validation of other people is what will fuel us to achieve our success. But you have to be able to identify within you what your values are, the things that you love about yourself, what are non-negotiable for you. And everywhere you go, understand that you leave your stamp in that environment. So figure out when people interact with me, who do I want them to see, and be that person so that you are you are consistent in your action, but you're keeping yourself as a priority. My final tip is to not go it alone. I think it's John Maxwell who says that, when you have a dream that you can accomplish alone, that dream is too small. If you have a vision that you're trying to execute, I want to encourage you not to be a lone ranger, but to network with other people, connect with other women who have come through situations that you are navigating. Find mentors and coaches who are experienced and who can guide you. Before I was able to pay for a coach, I would go to the University of YouTube and follow some of the women that I admired, the work that they were doing. I would watch their lives and watch their character, and I would learn from them. And I can tell you, I used to resist paying for coaching because I was like, my hard earned money. But there was a point in my life where I hit a plateau as I began this transformation and this journey of becoming a corporate coach and becoming this life mentor for women. I hit a plateau. And I had the opportunity to be mentored by someone, a very successful woman. And her rate just blew me out of the water. She's like, yeah, for an hour I charge XYZ. And I was like, there is no way that I'm going to pay that, because if I pay that, I would only have $200 left in the bank. And I had to say to myself, you have to make a choice. Move past your plateau by aligning yourself with someone that can help you get there, or keep your money in the bank and stay stuck. So I made the choice to pay that coach and leave myself with $200. Now, the beauty of it is I selected a reputable coach whose work with me allowed me to recover my investment within 6 months. And so I was able to recover my investment, learn the tips, the tools that were necessary to move me from the plateau into my next level. So we must be willing to get the resources necessary to help us move from overwhelmed to owning.
That was chock full of good stuff. Thank you so much. Those are, when I'm working with clients, we have very similar approaches to Duquesa, and it's not unusual, right, for coaches to say to their clients, the first thing you need to do is figure out who you are now that you are where you are, right? And then you need to develop the vision that will guide you and motivate you. And then you got to put that vision into practice. You've got to create a plan, and those micro steps that you call them, to move forward, and not do it alone, because that makes it so hard. So let's talk about the courage it takes to boldly step into an endeavor like this.
Absolutely. It takes courage.
It does take
It
courage.
takes a lot
Yeah.
of courage. And at some point in our lives, we get to the place where we have to say, enough is enough.
Yeah.
We have to get to a place where we say, I've had enough of this. There is something more that I desire. There is something more in life that I want. I'm not going to keep covering up the fact that I want more, I deserve more, and I'm going to be courageous enough to go after that, right? Now, courage is often um, prevented by fear. As we begin to think about taking action, we start to think about all of the things that can go wrong. I
Right.
am actually reading a book right now. I'm going to tell you the name of the book. It's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harvard Ecker. And one of the things he shared in the book is that rich people take the risk and poor people focus on what could go wrong.
Right.
Poor people focus on every scenario that is going to keep them in fear. But
Yeah.
what is fear? Fear is false expectations appearing real. So our expectation is that we're going to fail. Our expectation is we're going to lose our money. Our expectation is no one is going to support me. So our expectations are holding us back.
Right.
That's a beautiful thing to recognize
Yeah.
because if it is our expectation, then we must work on changing our belief system because our beliefs are setting up our expectations. So, what are you believing? So, before we can even implement some of this work, Maria, we have to do the personal development work. We have to focus on ourselves and understand why we have the beliefs that we have. These beliefs that are driving us. How have we been conditioned to that place?
And that's your very first step. It's the
Yeah.
know who you are. And that's the piece that it cannot be stressed enough. You can't fast track that
Yes. No, you
because if you
can't.
don't create that foundation for where you want to go and who you want to become in that journey,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's in that step as I work with my clients that most of my clients are stuck in that first
Yeah.
step. Once they
Yeah.
get past that first step, the other steps are much easier. So in that first step, I find women who are looking at what happened to them more so than looking at how they participated in the experience.
Hmm.
But when we shift our focus and understand how we showed up, what we did, what we allowed, and begin to inspect why, and we find the root, we can uproot the roots that don't belong and replace those roots so that we build a strong internal foundation
Yeah.
that gets us to the place of saying, so what if I fail? I'm going to learn
Mhm.
the lesson from that failure, implement it because that is just teaching me what's not going to work, what to tweak.
That's right.
So I'm
It's
going
not
to
failure, right? It's not
correct.
failure. They are lessons to be learned.
Yes, they
Yes.
are lessons to be
Yes.
learned. You know, when I shared
Absolutely.
earlier about the fact that I looked for love in all of the wrong places, that went back to one of the roots inside of me that told me that who I was not enough.
Hmm.
That as a person, as a woman, I wasn't worthy of love because mother died, she left me, nobody took her place. I wasn't worthy of anybody supporting and loving. And so that unworthiness had me working overtime in relationships, proving to people that they should choose me, that they should be with me, that they should love me. And as a result of doing that, I was what I would label as a doormat because men saw that as weakness. They would walk over me, they knew how to manipulate me. But
Yeah.
oh, how the game changed once I learned to love myself. Once I learned that I was worthy just by being born, I was born worthy of whatever it is that I desired. Once I learned how to build my esteem, how to find my strengths and find my passion, then inside of me, I saw myself as this royal creature,
Mhm.
as someone worthy of respect, someone worthy of a love that cherished and honored, and someone that was strong enough to say, no, that's not what I want when those red flags come up. We have to take responsibility.
I love the metaphor you used. When you discover what those limiting beliefs are, that you uproot them so you can plant deeper roots
Yeah.
that become your foundation. That's a beautiful metaphor. You know, we're running short on time here, and I could go on forever listening to you. I would love to get to our tips section if you don't mind. I know that
Absolutely.
this is the segment of our program that many of our loyal viewers tell me is their favorite part, where you get to share some of your practical tips and techniques with us. So, Duquesa, let's get to your tips.
Absolutely. And so I want to share 6 tips with you. But first, I want to just make sure that everyone understands that life is about seasons. There are hills and valleys. You're going to have great times, you're going to have hard times. It's important to enjoy those great times. And when you sit in the valley, just stoop in that valley experience and grab what that valley is teaching you. And then stand up with the lesson from that valley to help you own it. So I want to give you 6 quick tips. The first thing I want to share with you is that in order to go from overwhelmed to owning it, you have to lead your life. This is where you are no longer on routine or default mode, but that you're taking bold ownership of your own life. You're no longer being guided or being controlled by the rules of society, your friends, your family, because who made those rules up anyway, right? You are bold enough to lead your own life. The second tip I want to tell you is to love what you do. And when you love what you do, including yourself, that's like an unshakable foundation that you have. Are you working in your passion zone? Are you doing as a career the thing that you wanted to do? Like what are you doing every day? Is that aligned with your passion, your joy, or are you doing those things because the thing you wanted to do, people told you that you couldn't do, or that it was a career that was frowned upon by society or your family because you needed to do something more substantial? Tip number 2 is to love what you do. Tip number 3 is to build on your belief system. This is where you develop that everlasting strength. You know, when we were children, we were courageous, we were inquisitive, we explored. There was nothing that we wouldn't do when we were 2, 3, 4. There was no fear. We are still those courageous, inquisitive creatures. And so build on your belief system by going deep into who you are, rediscovering yourself, unshackling yourself from the beliefs that have been taught to you by inspecting them and seeing if that's truly what you want to believe. My fourth tip is to believe in your vision, even when no one else believes in it. And I vividly remember when I first stepped into this journey as a corporate coach, there was a young lady who said to me, "You know that field saturated, right? You're not going to get a lot of business. There are so many other people doing that." And I told her, "Well, thank you so much for your encouragement." But I knew within myself that what I brought to the table was unique. My secret is no one else, is me. And so, even though that was what she believed, I believed that the opportunities would materialize for me, and they did. So, you must believe in your vision by having limitless dreams and executing on those dreams because you are so self assured. The fifth tip is that you have to work for it, sis. Nothing is going to drop in your lap. Absolutely nothing is going to just drop in your lap. It takes consistently showing up every day, executing your well laid out plan for you to go from a place of being overwhelmed to owning it. And we often look for a microwave approach. I want to burst that bubble today. And I want you to know that it's not a quick process. Transformation takes time. Moving from overwhelm to the place where you could rock it and own it, that takes time. And you must be willing to put the work in every single day, even when it's hard. When I first started building my confidence, I would stand in the mirror and tell myself, "I love you." And I cried so many days because I didn't believe it. That was hard work to stand and affirm myself, but I pressed through because I wanted to get to the other side. You have to be willing to put the work in. I mean, we put the work in other people's jobs, right? We go to work, we give them the time, we might even work overtime, helping an organization be successful, helping our community outreach be successful, we must be willing to put that same work into ourselves so that we are successful. My sixth and final tip is to take a calculated bet on yourself. This is how you set yourself up to soar. If you do the same thing over and over and over again, you get the same result. So, in order to elevate it, to lift it up a bit, you have to be willing to take that calculated risk on yourself. And as you are taking that calculated risk on yourself, you must be willing to eliminate the dead weight. That means you must let go of the wrong people. It means that you should transition from the wrong toxic environments. It means that you must create within your own sanctuary the type of environment that nurtures you. So you must be willing to take a bet on yourself, calculate it out, and take the best bet on yourself. And these six tips can help you go from a place of being overwhelmed to actually owning it.
Great tips. Great tips. Love that. And like I said, we could talk about this, you and I, Duquesa, for hours because we believe the same things and we help our clients in very similar ways. So I am sure that the people who will watch this, who are watching now, will listen and watch later, are going to want to know how to reach out to you. So please tell us the very best way.
The very best way to reach me is through my website, duquesadean.com. That's www.duquesadean.com. duquesadean.com.
Perfect. I'm sure you will hear from many in our audience. Duquesa, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your energy, your beautiful story, and all of the things that you do to help women move out of that overwhelmed state into a more powerful one. So thank you for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much for the opportunity to be here.
It
I
is my
enjoyed it.
pleasure. My pleasure. All right. So I also want to thank all of you for watching and listening. I appreciate that you're a part of our community. And as I said at the top of the show, I love creating and sharing resources with women. And as a career and life coach, I work with women to help them navigate these challenging times that we are all in, to help you get a fresh perspective on what's going on for you, and reach out. And so let's have a conversation. If you'd like to continue this conversation, please reach out to Duquesa or to me. And I invite you to join my private Facebook group called the Career Transition Roadmap. That's a place where we can continue this conversation. So until we meet again, every Wednesday at the same time, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, I believe it's our time to thrive. So will you join me on that ride? Till next time, I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, turning transition into triumph.